know it's wrong. We're good now.
Okay, good.
Oh my God. I'm an
Okay.
idiot.
No, you're
I
not.
forgot that I had to do it like through. Oh, I
But
have
you
to
got
do
it?
it through StreamYard, and then I just use OBS as like a secondary. Like it
Okay.
just controls. Yeah, we're
Okay, good.
live. Hey guys.
Okay, good. So here,
All
let me
right,
get that.
we got it figured out. I'm an idiot,
We're gonna
and
let people come back. We got it figured out. Good.
yeah,
Good. That's all
only
that matters.
myself to blame for that. We're probably gonna have no viewers at this
Oh
point.
no, we
Whatever.
will. They'll come back. They'll come back. They'll come back. They always come back.
Yes. Okay.
They'll come
So.
back. Oh yeah, perfect. All right. Yes, we are there. Sweet, dude. All right, let's just jump into this bitch, man.
Oh God.
Yes.
I can't believe I did that.
All right. So let me stream out. Yeah. Oh, I am Stott. We're live on Drone Text, guys. So everybody in here, all three of you, go over
We
to
are
Drone
working
Text.
now.
We are good now. We are working. We are live. I'm going to stop this stream. We're over there right now. Come on over. Okay. So I stopped that one there. All right. Cool. Okay.
We are back.
Sweet.
All right. Let's try to
do
get this back on track.
All right, man. All right. Let's jump right into this bitch, man. What about so John Hopkins University, man? Event 201. Everyone's talking about it now. I don't know which camera I'm looking at here. Am I looking at this one or that one? Let's go to this one here. Sorry. Oh, that's the right one. Is that the right one? Oh yeah. Okay, good. John Hopkins University. Have you done much reading up on all that?
I have not. Oh, well, yeah, a little bit. I mean, I know that's where a lot of the people are going, and I know that they have put out a lot of the information that we're getting, but other than that, no.
So, dude, I should I'll read some of these out here and you can go back and forth between us. Let me do it to my one screen here. So you can go back and forth between us. I'll put it up on that screen, which will probably cut me out, but it says Event 201. This is for anybody who doesn't know what Event 201 was. Do you just want to jump right in, dude? I'm sorry. Should we just jump right in?
Go for it. Go for
All
it.
Right. Event 201 was a 3.5-hour pandemic tabletop exercise that simulated a series of dramatic scenario-based facilitated discussions confronting difficult true-to-life dilemmas associated with response to a hypothetical but scientifically plausible pandemic. Scientifically plausible, yeah, I'd say so. 15 global businesses, government, and public health leaders were players in the simulation exercise that highlighted unresolved real-world policy and economic issues that could be solved with sufficient political will, financial investment, and attention now and in the future. So this happened on October 18th, right? The same day as the military games in Wuhan kicked off. This happened, which was, you guys don't know, basically, that it's like the Olympic Games just for military people. It kicked off in Wuhan, right? Some of the things they touched on in that article. Oh, did I not have that? Okay, it was right here. Some of the recommendations. Check out some of these recommendations that they were talking about. Government, international organizations, and businesses should plan now for how essential corporate capabilities will be utilizing during large-scale pandemics. That is exactly what Trump said when he came out, when his thing was like, we had all the Walmarts and the Targets and all these different private organizations all coming together, right? So I don't say this like Trump was part of the plan. What I'm saying is he's using the very thing that was set up, and Bill and Linda Gates. And this was done through the philanthropy. Let me see here. This was all made possible by the philanthropy. What's it called? Organization for anyways, through this philanthropy organization, the World Economic Forum, Bill Gates, and John Hopkins. So you had the UN there, you had Chinese delegates there, you had everybody, and this happens in October 18th. I find this very coincidentally suspicious. Does that make sense? So, and then the point number 2 was industry, national governments, international organizations should work together to enhance internationally held stockpiles of medical countermeasures to enable rapid and equitable distribution to severe pandemics. China is denying this and threatening to withhold this very thing to us right now, of which 90% of it, like we talked about, you can bring it back to me and you, 90% of that was, is made in China. Oh, sorry. Let me move this back to this camera here. What are your thoughts on that, dude? I mean, don't you find that kind of crazy?
Yeah, and it's right in line with, I mean, one thing, as you know, my focus is the media, and one thing I've noticed with the media is that these things always seem coordinated. As far as since Trump got elected and all these, it seems like every time one of their attempts to take him down fails, something else pops up. So this, as soon as the impeachment thing ended, it replaced it.
And I don't think,
that's odd.
It is odd, but I don't think this was a planned thing by the DNC. But unless you want to tie, which Robert being here, he would probably say this too. The DNC is totally in bed with the deep state, establishment, the cabal, right? They are the wing of that. They are the ones wanting to keep all of that in place, even though they pretend like they don't. That's why they hate Bernie so much, right? They don't want Bernie in there because he's not part of the establishment. But you look at all these organizations, and what Tucker Carlson covered the other night, that China said that they are, not going to give us, they're going to retaliate and not give us the medical supplies that we need in this event. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think they'll do it too.
I think they will too. I think they're going to do it. Right. But the word, and I've been harping on this in some of my live streams, the fact that they used the word retaliation when this was before any serious talk that we had any part to do with it, or whatever, they were talking about this. But I'm going to get into my theories here. I'm going to hold off and I have my theories laid out. We'll get into it in a little bit here. But I find this incredibly suspicious that they were rolling these things out. Here's a couple other things they were talking about. Government should provide more resources and support for the development and surge manufacturing of vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics that will be needed in this severe pandemic. And there it is, Bill Gates' wet dream, Big Pharma's wet dream, that we all got to rally against getting all these vaccines ready, and the martial law of forcing people, basically forcing people to get vaccinated. That's insanity to me, man. And this is all happening right in live time, real time, right now. It's happening. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so Rahm Emanuel, I'm pretty sure it was Rahm Emanuel, who was in the Obama administration. He said, he said, never let a good crisis go to waste. Right. And I feel like that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I don't think this is like coordinated by the DNC, but I think they're taking advantage of it.
Absolutely. 100%.
And and at the same time, I do think it's a real problem, which I want to get into here at some point, where we start to admit that this is a real problem and there are things that we should do. Yeah. But we also have to acknowledge that the media and the Democrats are trying to take advantage. And like you said about what China's doing, I hope that ultimately this is a rally for us, that we can rally, and just like we've become an energy independent, we can come medically independent too, because that's insane that we're reliant on one of our greatest foes on the planet and for medical supplies. Really,
like Tucker Carlson said, whoever put that in place should be tried for treason. That you would put all of that in the hand, and it's globalists, but you'd put all of that in the hands of the Chinese who hate us, the Chinese who have been.
How does that happen? Is that just money thing? I mean,
I think it's more than just money. I think it's a plan, man. I think it's the plan, the globalists, the people who really pull these strings nationwide or globally, they don't care about America. America's been the useful tool, if you will, for the last, however many decades, right? But now we're too strong. So they have to, if they want a one world government, if they want to bring everything into their control, and this used to be tinfoil hat shit we're talking about, oh, one world government, you're so crazy, blah, blah, blah. This is an absolute, I mean, you can go back and listen to George H.W., to Clinton, to George Bush, to, Obama, all of them have been one world government, we need to globally expand. Trump comes in, what does he do? He says, no, we're going to worry on America. We're going to focus on America. We're America first, make America great again. And that goes against all of the plans. That goes against every ideology that has been put in place for decades and the path they were taking us down. Which brings me to this next point, which is, and who's a big thorn in the side of all of this big globalist plan? Believe it or not, I really believe it is, like Robert always says, the independent content creator, the internet, the vast ease of information is the enemy to these plans. Which brings me to point number 7 of Event 201, where they discuss this. Governments and private sector should assign a greater priority to developing methods to combat mis- and disinformation prior to the next pandemic response. There it is, guys. This is what's going to happen next. It was spelled out and outlined literally 2 weeks before this pandemic began that this is their next move. You mark my words. They are now
repeat that again. Read that again. What that next move is.
The government and the private sector should, and private sector meaning big tech, right? Should assign a greater priority to developing methods to combat mis and disinformation prior to the next pandemic response. So we are the misinformation. We are the disinformation. We are not the authoritative news sources. The authoritative news sources are going to be the ones that get pushed up. And like we've been seeing, if you have anything to say in your video about the CV, right? Well, we've already said it a million times, but the coronavirus, then your video is getting taken down, your channel, or, you know, whatever it's going to be pushed back, suppressed. It is, and constantly you have the little banner. They've been doing this forever, right? If you really want
coronavirus info,
you go to the CDC because they're not ever going to lie to you. They haven't had a revolving door with big pharma and you know the bought and paid for lobbyists that want to push their pandemics of fear for vaccines and drugs and everything else. You go to them. They're going to tell you the truth. Don't listen to somebody who's going to point out all these other facts and is going to make you think outside the box and think, wait a minute, this is all a little suspicious.
Yeah,
you don't want
and this
to
is
listen to
all
those people.
Yeah, and this is all like right in line with everything that I've been talking about for the last couple of years about how they really want to get rid of any sort of opposition. Not just us on YouTube and stuff, but literally I think all of it. They want I mean, look at the stuff they're saying about the Republican Party out there. They've literally moved into like Nazi-esque propaganda about the Republicans. Joy Reid last week said, "Oh, you got to be worried about Trump supporters' kids because they're going to infect your kids."
Jeez.
And today there was similar rhetoric to that. You had that PBS reporter get up and say, "Oh, Trump," and I'll play. Actually, let me play that here real quick. I'm going to do that here. Hold on. I think
cue it up. I want to read this while you're queuing that up.
Okay.
So under that headline that I just responded about them having to combat disinformation, this is what they literally say. Governments will need to partner with traditional and social media companies to research and develop nimble approaches to countering misinformation. This will require developing ability to flood media with fast, accurate, and consistent information. Public health authorities, propaganda. Propaganda. That's what it's just saying right there. Flood everything with the information we say is what you need to believe. Public health authorities should work with private employers and trusted community leaders such as faith leaders to promulgate propaganda. But what they're saying is promulgate factual information to employees and citizens. Factual information from who? What about us out here in the field? What about us that are researching what a martial law and emergency declarations can mean for the communities? What do we do when we see what's going on in our community? That's not factual information. We can't repeat that and share that as factual information. No, it has to be what is coming from the mainstream media, from authoritative news sources. That's what's factual information. And they're saying we're literally going to push the propaganda, and you trusted leaders of the community need to push this. Trusted influential private sector employees should create the capacity to readily and reliably augment public messaging, manage rumors and misinformation, and amplify credible information to support emergency public communications. Natural public health agencies should work in close collaboration with the WHO, World Health Organization, which again is no more to be trusted than the CDC, to create the capability to rapidly develop and release consistent health messages. For their part, media companies should commit to ensuring that authoritative messages are prioritized and false messages are suppressed, including through the use of technology. That is literally what they're saying. Fuck the free speech. Fuck your free speech. We're going to do what we're going to do, and you're going to like it. And it doesn't matter. This was an exercise that rolled out 2 weeks before this pandemic rolled or took off, right? A couple weeks later, we've talked about this. Netflix puts out their pandemic. This was social programming. This was an absolutely planned scenario that was pushed from the very get-go to the people that this is what we're going to do. Anyways, we're not being told the truth from our mainstream media.
No,
I don't believe it at all.
We never are. We never are.
Nope.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, I mean, and this is a lot of the times when I'm talking about, I talk about how the left is dangerous because they rationalize things. It's like they take these actions and then in their own heads they're doing these mental gymnastics and, oh well, it's because of this reason that I can do this, and this is what we're seeing here. Is they're using this crisis to rationalize getting rid of political opposition.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's like you only can, the whole authoritative sources. As soon as I started hearing that, I knew that's what they were going for. It's like, oh, yeah. And there was just a recent study done that, and I think I did a video about it, but they talked about how YouTube needs to do more to deal with fake news and misinformation, and one of the categories that they say should be targeted is people who question. Oh, they said people who paint the media as being detrimental to the country.
You're on the list, dude.
Yeah, no shit. Well, all of us are, no doubt. I mean, that's everything that we're talking about is questioning the media.
Oh yeah.
But how Orwellian and insane is that?
Yes.
Not only do we have this pandemic spreading, but we have these people that are so determined to get power and to use that power to silence our, that they're willing to tear this country apart.
Right.
They're willing to they've done this so often that people are so distrustful of the media.
You think about this. They say they don't want misinformation spread. What is the mainstream media spreading more than ever? We're all going to die. We're all going to die. It's terrible. You need to quarantine. You need to run out and buy ass wipe. You need to do all this stuff because it's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. And then you got some people sitting back going, wait a minute, not that many people have died yet. Now, I'm not downplaying this because I think there is a position or a part of this that we don't truly know yet. That yes, I have my reservations to say it's not just the flu. I don't think anybody should say it's just the flu. I don't think that's wise or that's responsible because we don't know enough about it yet. I know I've been sick 3 times in about a month and a half time, and that is very unlikely or very uncharacteristic of me to get sick this many times. And so it does make me wonder, like some of the rumors out there that says this disease attaches to your central nervous system. You get sick, you get over it. You get sick, you get over it. But each time you get a little worse and you can get more easily infected with other diseases. That kind of worries me, right? That side of it. But having said that, they don't want the news. They don't want the people going out there that are saying to everyone, hey, you know what? Yeah, I got it. I got the sniffles. I got the cough for a few days and then I got better, because that panic and fear doesn't sell. That is not what the globalists wanted. And whoever put this out there, this is a bioweapon. This did not organically occur. This is a bioweapon that was released by somebody. And when we're ready, I'm going to get into, I know you want to play that, but I want to get into my couple theories one way or the other. Both of them I think are pretty damn convincing. You might need to throw on a tinfoil hat, but I think they're convincing.
Well, let's check out this real quick. I just want to show this clip, and just to reiterate what I was talking about, they are trying to make it seem like it's real Nazi-esque propaganda. They're trying to make it seem like Republicans are mongrel, like subhumans who don't believe in science, and they just pray to this invisible man in the sky, and that we're all religious, and that makes us some sort of a danger to everybody else. And they're really laying it on thick, trying to otherize us. And yesterday, while Trump was giving his press conference about his plans moving forward, a PBS, publicly funded, at least partially funded PBS, one of the journalists got up and was just acting like an activist, obviously not professional. Many of you may have seen it. She called Trump, or she asked if he was being let me just play the clip.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Mr. President, thank you. I want to first follow up on Jeff's question, because the person you were standing next to, whether you know who he is or not, tested positive for coronavirus. Dr. Fauci said this morning, if you stand next to somebody who tested positive, you should self-isolate and get a test. You say your White House doctor is telling you something different. Who should Americans listen to? And my second question
I think they have to listen to their doctors. And I think they shouldn't be jumping to get the test unless it's necessary. But I think they have to listen to their doctors. And I mean, I don't know I haven't seen the picture. Somebody said there's a picture with somebody taking a picture with me, but I haven't seen it.
Well, doctors have said you might have it even if you don't have symptoms. Are you being selfish by not getting tested and potentially?
Well, I didn't say I wasn't going to be tested.
Are you going to be?
Most likely, yeah. Most
When do you
likely.
think
Not for
that'll
that
happen?
reason, but because I think I will do it anyway.
So here what we have is this person, she knows nothing. She has no facts, and yet she's casting aspersion on the president. As we know, I don't know how many of you know, but he got tested and he tested negative. Who's surprised by that? Like every time these people jump, they land in shit. Every time.
Yeah, every time. And here's the thing, though. I mean, if I'm going to play both sides of it, her questioning and her tone of that was completely irresponsible and completely just transparent, unprofessional, transparent. But here's the thing: we're not. If he did get tested and he did end up having it with all the panic that is ensuing, do you think that is HIPAA? He doesn't have to release to anybody if he has it or not. So he's, of course, he's going to say he doesn't have it, even if he did have it, as all my point is on that, because they're not going to let anybody know there's any kind of weakness or potential. What that could do to the market. Can you imagine what that would do to the market if he came out and said he had it, even though he's probably just going to get the sniffles and get over it. Like I have, pardon the way I sound. I do.
I've been feeling bad the last couple of days too. I've been feeling a little bit better today, but I've been nervous too.
Yeah. So, do you guys want to hear kind of some of my theories here? Do you want to hear what?
I do.
Theories? So, and we'll play a couple of these links I have set up. But so, my thought is this is our new 9/11. If anybody, I'm going to probably offend some people out there, and if you do, I'm sorry. I don't believe we've been told the official story when it comes to 9/11. I am not going to say anything more than that. I just think that there's a lot of information that is very, very, very substantial and substantive information that proves we were not told the truth on 9/11. I believe absolutely in every way, shape, and form. False flags have been used going back decades, that this is a bioweapon and that was released. This is what I believe. Francis Boyle, and I didn't find the exact spot maybe where he says this, but in let me go up to right here, maybe about here. Okay. Hang on. With the aid of Charles okay. So this guy here, can you move it over to my camera? Maybe it is. Okay. Okay, perfect. Listen to this guy for a second. So if anybody doesn't know who this guy is, his name is Francis Boyle. And Francis Boyle discusses the coronavirus outbreak in Wuhan, China, and a biosafety lab from which he believes it escaped from there. He believes the virus is potentially lethal and offensive biological weapon or dual-use bioweapons agent genetically modified with gain-of-function properties, which is why Chinese government originally tried to cover it up and is now taking drastic measures to contain it. I'm not going to watch all of this right here because I don't know. I didn't get it all clipped up for the exact right spot. But that's the article I'm talking about. So Francis Boyle comes out and says this, right? He comes out and says, I think that this is a bioweapon. He has no doubt about it. The guy helped write the bioweapon laws and rules for the U.S. government and the Department of Defense. And so he is in the know. He's not just some loosey-goosey, crazy old Bernie looking guy. He actually is in the know on all this stuff. He just came out and said it's definitely a bioweapon. Think about it. Either China or the U.S., I believe. Some people have said Britain and whatnot, but I think it's one of those two released this. So let's presuppose for a second China did it and why they might do it. It shuts down, number one, it shuts down the Hong Kong protests, which is kind of a minor way, right? But here's the other thing that it would do. It quells the Wuhan uprising. If you guys aren't familiar with the Wuhan uprising, back in middle of this year, I'm going to go to this article. Back in the middle of this year, first Hong Kong protested, now it's Wuhan, China. What makes it Beijing's latest headache? So Wuhan was a headache to China. It says, reporting from Beijing, and this article is from July 5th, 2019. Reporting from Beijing on suffocating summer nights in Wuhan City, China, the smell of burning garbage drifts through the air. Oh, those lovely communists. They do so well. So acrid that people close their windows and complain they cannot get sleep. And when local authorities recently tried to rush through a waste-to-energy plant to incinerate garbage, they provoked Days of furious protest in a nation where authorities are swift to crush dissent. Protesters stayed on the street for days, according to social media. We didn't hear about this much at all. If you weren't paying attention, you didn't hear about this. This happened a few months, 6 months, 4 or 5 months before what just happened in Wuhan, China. It says Wuhan protests unfolded as unrelated demonstrations in Hong Kong shook Beijing's authority, and images of Hong Kong riot police pepper spraying young protesters gripped the world. We didn't see any pictures of what was going on in Wuhan during these protests. Can you imagine what that would have been? They have everything so damn locked down over there. They're doing the very same thing that like we talked about, Event 201 wants to do about this one: lock it down, take control of everything, because they can't hide the truth of everyone that has a camera in their pocket. Both protesters tell a story of problems Chinese authorities face, containing discontent on the mainland over hot-button issues like environmental desecration, scandals over food, medical standards, on rising prices, while facing a new generation of Hong Kong protesters who feel alienated from China. It's increasingly heavy-handed authoritarian model. So that happened in July, right? Then you look over here, another article that I have. This one here: China has made progress on air pollution. Wuhan protests show there's still a long ways to go. Here's another one from CNN. This other one was from the LA Times. So here's a couple articles that show that there was some serious protests in Wuhan. Well, guess what this also does? If China did it, we're presupposing China did it. If China did it, they can quell and they can stomp out any of these protests and get rid of the dissidents, get rid of the problem, the problem children up there. They can shut it down. They can shut these protests down if they release something like this where they have to lock everybody down, right? They've also been secretly trying to bring us down without thermonuclear fallout. If you read some of these articles, where are they at? Did I not bring that one up? Because I was not... where is my article on that? Damn it all. Anyways, I'll bring this one up here. Sorry, guys. Let me bring this over. Okay. So this article here talks about China plans extermination of U.S. bioweapons, Taiwan, and Christianity. For the past few days, we've talked about, this article was written back in 2014. Okay. 2014. And the part I want to read to you is this. Here is what General Qi considers the best option for China as they seek to kill off enough North Americans to leave space for the Chinese colonists. It says, so to resolve the issue of America, we must be able to transcend conventions and restrictions in history. When a country defeated another country or occupied another country, it could not kill all the people in the conquered land, because back then you could not kill people effectively with sabers and long spears, or even with rifles or machine guns. Therefore, it was impossible to gain a stretch of land without keeping the people on the land. However, if we conquered America in this fashion, we would not be able to make many people migrate there. Only by using special means to clean up America will we be able to lead the Chinese people there. This is the only choice left for us. This is not a matter of whether we are willing to do it or not. What kind of special means is there available for us to clean up America? Conventional weapons such as fighters, cannons, missiles, battleships won't do it. Either we'll have highly destructive weapons such as nuclear weapons. Neither will nuclear weapons. We are not as foolish as to want to perish together with the Americans by using nuclear weapons, despite the fact that we have been examining that we are exclaiming that we will have the Taiwan issues resolved at whatever costs. Only by using non-destructive weapons that can kill many people will we be able to reserve America for ourselves. There has been rapid development of modern biological technology, and new bioweapons have been invented one after another. I'm almost done with this article. Of course, we have not been idle. In the past years, we have seized the opportunity to master weapons of this kind. We are capable of achieving our purpose of cleaning up America all of a sudden. When Comrade Xi Jinping was still with us, the party central committee had the perspicacity, the foresight to make the right decisions not to develop aircraft carrier groups and focus instead on developing lethal weapons that can eliminate mass populations of the enemy country. So now, and I'm sorry, Drone Tech, if you need to jump in for a second, if you have a question, go for it. I'm just ranting here for a minute. But so if you take that into account, why they would do it, right? Well, why would they kill their own people? Why would they release this on everything? They commit bioweapon release on their own and have plausible deniability and the perfect setup to blame the US. Here's why they do it. because they can drop a bioweapon, they can take care of their dissenters, they can clamp down on their country, they can then have the plausible deniability that they can blame the U.S. This then puts them in a position to retaliate, what they've been saying they're going to do. When they dropped the word here a few weeks ago, they said, we're going to retaliate because we were mean to you and said you didn't clean up your place quick enough. That constitutes using the word retaliate. No. You know what I'm saying? They know either they're blaming us, or my second theory, which I'll get to, we'll take a break after this. I'll get to my second theory, that they do know we did something right. So they give us no medical supplies, or they release a direct bioweapon attack that takes the current phase to step number 2 on all of us. They know that this isn't that big of a deal, but it compromises our immune system in a way. It puts a marker on our immune system. I'm just presuppositioning here. I'm tinfoil hatting, but I think
like this is just setting it up for something else.
It's setting it up, or striking a strike during a shutdown with a cyber attack, multiplying deaths and collapse exponentially. So we're going through. Think about what is happening right now. This isn't conspiracy theory. Like, well, what if
how crazy people are acting now?
I know, and it's not like I'm postulating right now saying, well, what if they shut the government down, and what if they put everyone in quarantines, and what if they did that? Then that would be a perfect time for China to do something. That's what's happening, people. That is what's happening right now. Whether or not the virus is real or imagined or is deadly or not, that doesn't even matter anymore. That is besides the point. The point is what we are doing, whoever is doing this wants to cause a collapse and complete and total calamity upon our society and upon our markets and upon our government and upon our country. That is what they want to do for whatever nefarious reasons. That is what they are actually doing right now.
Yeah.
And if China did do this and this all goes through, and like they said, they've got it all cleaned up on their end, because you know what? If they did do it, I bet you they might have had a vaccine ready to give their people and to mass treat their people. When they were blowing all that shit around in the streets, they said they were sanctifying the streets or cleaning the streets.
Robots and stuff.
Who's to say that wasn't a vaccine that they were blowing all around to kill all the remaining germs? They've got the pandemic out. It's spreading. They can blame it on somebody else. And now let's go through and let's clean up our city. Let's clean up our country. Let's get everything under control here and watch the world burn, and then be in a number 1 position globally. I think that that is a little outside the box, but I think it's well within the realm of possibilities. That's my first.
I'm right with you, man. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. We grew up being constantly told that Russia was our biggest foe, and that all kind of died out through the 90s. And ever since then, it just seems like this country is very lackadaisical when it comes to our enemies. It's like we don't even care if we have enemies. Like, we think we're so untouchable for some reason. And while we're thinking about enemies invading with armies or, with landing vessels and navies, these people are thinking, the Chinese are thinking of ways to screw us over other ways, like you just lined out. And I think it's,
go ahead. No. And you think,
no, go ahead.
I was just going to make a joke, a quippy thing. They're good at math. They figured it out. They're like, hey, we can spend this many billions of dollars on bombs and destroy everything and then get in a real hot war, or we can play the long game and we can set it all up perfectly, poison them all out, and then we'll do it. We'll hit an EMP, or we'll do a cyber strike on them.
Do they even need to do that, though? We have people tearing each other's faces off over toilet paper. So do they even need to do that?
No, but it's the perfect storm for them if they did this, because you think about that. You think about the fact that we are in complete turmoil here, and it's only going to get worse in the next few weeks. It is not getting better yet, people. Yeah.
Look at China's perspective. They see our national media literally like launching attacks on their own people.
Yes. I know.
And real quick. Kenneth Nicely has arrived, aka George Soros of the right. Thank you, Kenneth, for your donation. Man. I appreciate it.
He donated earlier to me too.
But I do want to take a quick break here, real quick. But thank you, Tony Face Pro. The U.S. has been piggy bank and muscle. Nothing would surprise me at this point. Yeah, that's a great observation. Peace. Yeah, I agree, man. Everything that you just said there was pretty brilliant. I'm pretty impressed with what you came up with there.
Really? I thought it was really street. I think it was a little tinfoily, but I got my second one. We'll do it after the break, where it's like, okay, this is what if the U.S. did it and why they would do it. And so
folks, we're living in a world where Italy literally quarantined the whole country. Literally in the United States, my daughter's school is closed down for a month right now. And I went out today. It was a ghost town. Nobody's going out. Everybody's scared. So it's very strange times. And, tinfoil, forget the tinfoil stuff. I think we need to consider all of this at this point. Yeah. But we're going to take just a quick break here, folks. And when we
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Before we go,
go ahead.
I want to respond to one comment before we.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Rational said that China's economy will collapse if the West fails. Dude, we have already been there. Their economy is already totally built up and puffed up, just like ours is completely blown up because of the stupid monetary policies going back 3 and 4 and 5 administrations deep, right, to where we were just pumping trillions of dollars a year into our economy. So yes, their economy will be hit globally. They'll be hit, but they have been stockpiling gold. They have been stockpiling with Russia and China have been stockpiling gold. They will come back when we are completely collapsed and ruined. Will be the new heroes on the block, and that is where and they own everything. They own all our manufacturing. They own everything over there. So they would be hurt, but they'll rebuild it.
And when we come back, I do want to talk a little bit more about that. I'm more and more wondering how bought are the media, all completely. Hollywood and all these different institutions, are they all bought and paid for at this point? Are they our enemy? Are they with China at this point? And we will talk about that more. I do want to just take a quick break here, and we will be back in just a minute, guys. Thank you. I hear no audio.
Share your audio. Go down to share audio.
It's already shared.
It is? You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Share screen. The bottom's clicked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, it's not working. Inexplicably, I don't know why.
Can they hear us?
It's not working.
Prepare with DroneTech.com.
Prepare with DroneTech.com, everybody. And we're back.
I should have just did a voiceover during that. Next time we'll run that out. I'll just do an on the fly voiceover. Are you scared of the Wuhan virus?
Hey, I do want to tell everybody, I just got my food that I ordered today. So it does take a little while. But if you do want to prepare, if you do want to get just a food stock that will last for a while, and you just want to have that just in case something happens, and I'm not like fear mongering saying, oh, you need to buy this because if you don't, you're not going to be able to eat and you're going to starve to death. It's good to have just for peace of mind, if nothing else. So
you started to sound like Arnold right there. You're like, oh, you need to buy this.
You need to buy this right now because you're a fucking choir boy compared to me. Anyway,
that's what you need to do, dude. Do they allow you to add some humor to that whole?
I think so. If you don't prepare with DroneTech.com, I hope you leave enough room for my fist because I'm going to ram it into your stomach and break your goddamn spine.
That would be so great, man. That would be just awesome. I wish that they could do that.
Yes. Moving on at this point.
Oh,
so one thing I know you're going to go to your other point here.
No, go to your point. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. I do wonder this more and more. Is the media? I mean, are they truly the enemy because they're bought and paid for by China? Is that possible?
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely possible, but I also think that it's just the you think about the few media conglomerates, right, that own all of the media. They are not America first. These George Soroses and these, Murdochs and these, you go down the list of these people who own all the media, right? They're not American first. They're not for sovereignty of America. They're globalists. So of course they're going to do whatever they need to do. And you look at it, of course they want to take Trump out because he isn't about that. Now, some people would argue that, and you'd have your never Trumpers. Oh, of course he had blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing, guys. He is not, at least as outwardly about that. He is some, if you want to go down that road at all, he's the semblance of wanting to pull back power from the global elite. And all of the other people, the Obamas, the Bushes, the Clintons, all of them, all the way down. I don't know enough about Reagan, sadly, to say if he was a globalist or not. But you go all the way back. The last one who wasn't a real globalist was JFK, right? He was the one calling that stuff out, and he took one to the head and, a couple to the head. Of course they own that. And they had to have America in the spot for as many decades as they did because they needed to build this power, right? And this the great world's greatest superpower. But how do you globally control the world under a one world government with a superpower? You bring the superpower to their knees. That's
right.
How you do it.
Yeah, I want to point out something about that real quick. Anybody who grew up in the 90s might remember this. During the Clinton administration, we had Madeleine Albright, who was she Secretary of Defense, I think?
Secretary of State.
Okay. She famously said when she was Secretary of State for the Clinton administration that, and I don't remember the exact words, but that the U.S. should not be the sole superpower. And she was part of this wing of the Democrats on the left that wanted to basically knock America down a peg or two to let other countries run the show a little bit.
Think about what Obama did the whole time through. We need to apologize. We have a bad history. We did all these bad, and I'm not saying we haven't done bad things. I believe
everybody has, though. That's the context of it.
Absolutely. But I also believe that the military industrial complex, the establishment, the cabal, they have done some really fucked up things to Americans and to America. But again, that is not Americans. That is not the essence of who America was and who your average everyday Joe American is. That is not who they are. They built that facade to get us to where we're at. And now they got to make those house of cards fall. And so this is our next 9/11. This is happening. I'm not saying there isn't an actual, just like I'm not one of those weird, stupid morons that say those were holograms that flew into the buildings. Those fucking morons. No, there were actual planes that flew into the fucking buildings, right? Sorry,
or missiles. Missile.
Right, or missile. Well, missiles to the Pentagon, probably. Yeah, planes to the actual fucking, buildings. But there was way more to that official story that we are not being told. That was not solely manufactured and planned by Osama bin Laden. Look at what a government did. A government killed its own people, and not the essence of the government. There was a cabal. There was a group of people that planned this in conjunction with some jihadis that wanted to get one off on America. We do it all the time, guys. We do it all the time. We have those fake FBI stings, and the last second they pull the plugs, and then they arrest the guy. Like, oh, look, we stopped terror. No, we didn't. You set somebody up to commit terror, and then it was all anyways. So a government will sacrifice their own people to get the bigger to get the bigger prize of imperialism and globalization and pushing a force and power to the world, subduing all these other countries. And then when they've subdued everyone they're going to subdue, then they make them fall and they put the big pieces in place. So why wouldn't why can we not believe that China wouldn't do that to their own people to push back on the cabal that they know what they're trying to do, and they're trying to make China fall, which is my next theory. But anyways, let me know when you want me to get that.
No, I'm with you. Just look how China treats its own people.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's another thing. That's another strange thing. Like, there's literally concentration camps where they're hoarding Muslims in these concentration camps, and yet no world outcry at all.
Right.
Nothing has, and I'm not 100% on this. Has there been any condemnation from the UN or anything? I don't think there has been.
On what?
On China's treatment of the Uyghurs or whatever they're called. What's going on with that? We have condemnation. We have condemnation of detention centers, but not these literal concentration camps in China.
Yeah. No, if they have, it's just been for show and it's been brushed under the rug.
There hasn't.
No, I don't think there has been either. But my point is that it's not something that's had any consequence. It's not of any real consequence that they've done that. If that's what they're saying. No, not at all. Not at all.
So what is this other theory that you have?
So my second theory
I'm interested in this.
Okay. So here I'll go to this one. If you want to put me up on big screen, I'll go to the second screen here. So, oh, actually, no. Yeah. Let me just put it to my face here because we don't need. Okay. So anyway, That's my presupposition, is if China did it. So let's presuppose the US did it. I'm on the right camera. Okay. Presuppose the US did it. It was perfectly timed with the trade war, what was going on in China, right? That we wanted to make some pieces fall with China and take control over China. The globalists that are in power of America, but want to make America fall, but also still have the upper hand in that, right? Not letting the Chinese make everybody fall and they become the global leaders. We, the West, wanting to make America fall and become the global leaders. They were perfectly timed with the trade war. We have perfect cover to distribute, which going back to the military games when they were there, we had 300 U.S. soldiers there. You're going to tell me that that wouldn't have been an opportune time to infiltrate a deep state operative that could have gone over there and released that, right? Perfect timing for that. We also have plausible deniability because of the lab over there in China, because of the food market there in China, because of how everything else. There's plausible deniability that we didn't have anything to do with this. This wreaks havoc on the Chinese economy. If we do this, it totally wreaks havoc. It simultaneously opens the doors for draconian and authoritarian responses to be implemented nationally here at home. Martial law limits and removes constitutional protections, right? We are under a state of emergency. That means, everybody, we're not in a full-fledged tanks in the street yet, but we are there to where now it can be dispatched with a simple executive order, with a simple, order of the president or of Congress or whoever. They can easily implement the next level of martial law. And if you read through, and I was doing it last night, all the different increments of what martial law includes, we've always talked about this. It is now upon us. They're closing everything down. They're talking about quarantining New York City, for the love of God. If that happens, there is going to be a lot of deaths, not due to the virus, but due to the absolute and total pandemonium that's going to take place there if that happens and when that happens. So you have people gladly and willingly under martial law giving up, just like we did with 9/11, giving up your freedoms, giving up your liberties because, hey, we got to be protected from this virus and the craziness going on in the streets. National Guard is being readied. I was driving down the street the other day, in 7 years of driving down I-205. I have never seen a martial law, or I've never seen a convoy of National Guards heading over to the National Guard. I took some video of the National Guard base. It's full of vehicles right now. They're readying because Oregon and all these other states are under emergency order right now, state of emergency. So they can, again, call up martial law at any time. National Guard being readied. Corbett. And so this Corbett video, I don't know. Can we, I think I'm sharing audio with you. I would like to play this video from Corbett, from the Corbett report. Let me make it full screen here. This guy, and I'm going to speed up the settings here, normal speed. I'm going to go to, he talks kind of fast, but I'm going to go to 1.5 times. And I think we should watch this. It's going to take about 10 minutes to watch it, but it's very, very, very enlightening of what medical martial law or martial law could look like and would look like. And this video was done in 2014. Can you hear that?
Needs to be higher.
Let me know if you guys can hear that in the chat. Can you hear it, Drone Tech? Drone Tech, can you hear it?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me, SJG?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can, but we cannot hear. The audio is very low for that. Needs
I just
to be
turned
louder.
it up. Oh, they said it's 1/5. Okay, let me
louder.
Okay, let me see if I
Jack
can
it up.
I can. That's about as loud as I can go. See if they can hear this.
Some of the virology that was going on.
There you go.
Resurrect the old Spanish flu and other such monstrosities in the name of scientific research, of course. some very interesting and I think valuable nuggets in there, but we're just going to listen to a segment today, as I say, particularly pertaining to that implementation of medical martial law. And this is an example of West going and reviving some of the old podcasts, putting some images and video on top of it to make it representable to the video audience. So for people who don't know, I am posting this to the main Corbett Report channel. If you are on YouTube, you may not know I have a secondary channel where we're often
Can you guys hear that?
interviews and old podcast episodes, etc. For example, my conversation several years ago during the Ebola freakout of 2014 with Tim Kilkenny about the movie Contagion for the Film Literature New World Order series. That recently went up, and I see the Contagion is trending. It's now one of the top streamed movies on various platforms right now because people are panicking once again. It is important to understand how we got to where we are today, that it didn't just happen overnight, that the groundwork and infrastructure has been laid for a very long time. So I hope this will help to do that. That being said, enjoy the podcast.
Also in Massachusetts, the legislature is acting rapidly on a bill updating what the state can do in a public health emergency. That bill has languished on Beacon Hill for some time, but with the flu outbreak, it's now racing through the legislature. NECN's Josh Brugadier is at the State House in Boston tonight. Josh?
RD, the state Senate passed this bill, Bill 2028 today. They did so unanimously, and it gives the governor and the health commissioner the power to act in the public's interest in case of any kind of medical emergency. Timing sped up a hearing and ultimately unanimous Senate approval of the Pandemic and Disaster Preparation and Response bill in Massachusetts. The bill gives the public health commissioner the discretion to respond to an outbreak like the kind going on in Mexico, to close or evacuate buildings, enter private property, isolate or quarantine people, to get and distribute meds and vaccines. A registry of Massachusetts volunteers would be created and would be activated in case of emergency. Plus, the commissioner could request personnel from other states. The bill also protects healthcare workers from liability. Concerns about the spread of swine flu meant lawmakers, such as Worcester County Democrat Richard Moore, didn't want to take any chances.
It's too bad that we have to have something like that pending to get us to finally act. But this was actually on the calendar before that became a news story. So it's not that it's totally that, but it does give us another reason why it's a good idea to have this on the books.
And RD, the bill has actually passed the Senate a couple of times the past few years, but has never passed both the Senate and the House. The House is expected to take up the bill sometime this week.
Josh, any penalty if you don't follow the emergency declaration rules?
It can actually get to be a pretty severe penalty because for each day someone didn't follow a rule, for example, if somebody was asked to be quarantined and they decided not to follow that, it could be a fine of up to $1,000 per day they didn't follow, and also up to 30 days in prison.
Josh Brugadier.
Now you think about that right now, and you think about what's going to happen when they quarantine whole cities and people start doing this, how they're going to have the mass pandemonium, and that is happening right now, guys. That is happening right now.
You're on Beacon Hill tonight. Thank you.
Now, obviously, martial law is an issue that we've been addressing on the Corbett Report podcast for some time, and of course in various articles and videos that we've also created in the past. But medical martial law is an issue that not many researchers have been devoting a significant amount of attention to, with some notable exceptions. But to trace the idea of medical martial law, or the idea that government can quarantine and force medicate people against their wishes in the event of a public health emergency, of course, we can trace the roots back to those fevered and panicked days in the wake of 9/11, when the idea of bioterrorism was very much on the tips of many people's tongues. And in the wake of that horrendous attack on the United States, and of course the anthrax attack, which later turned out to be from Fort Detrick and was eventually pinned on Bruce Ivins, although, of course, there are some very big questions surrounding that. But at any rate, in the wake of all that panic, something called the Model State Emergency Health Powers Act was drafted by something called the Center for Law and Public Health at Georgetown and Johns Hopkins universities. Now, this was done in conjunction with the Center for Disease Control, and as its name would suggest, it basically serves as a model for states to use to draft up their own Emergency Health Powers Acts. And in fact, the Center for Law and the Public Health, which can be found at publichealthlaw.net, likes to brag that this particular model act has been now implemented and adopted by over 40 states in the Union. So it's quite an influential document. And what does this document say about things that the government should be able to do in the event of a public health emergency? Well, Section 603 of the document, under the heading Vaccination and Treatment, reads the following, quote, during a state of public health emergency, the public health authority may exercise the following emergency powers over persons as necessary to address the public health emergency. A. Vaccination. To vaccinate persons as protection against infectious disease and to prevent the spread of contagious or possible contagious disease. 1. Vaccination may be performed by any qualified person authorized to do so by the public health authority. 2. A vaccine to be administered must not be such as is reasonably likely to lead to serious harm to the affected individual. 3. To prevent the spread of contagious or possibly contagious disease, the public health authority may isolate or quarantine, pursuant to Section 604, persons who are unable or unwilling for reasons of health, religion, or conscience to undergo vaccinations pursuant to this section.
Which is going to be me.
End quote. Yes, so basically in layman's terms, either roll up your sleeve and take the shot, or they're going to lock you in a room somewhere, or perhaps even in a camp with the other people who won't take their shots. Now, of course, this addresses some very fundamental issues about the existence or lack thereof of actual freedom and the times and situations in which the government can come in and force people to do things against their will. Now, I think every reasonable person would admit that there are reasonable situations in which a reasonably acting government could reasonably use reasonable procedures to make people act reasonably. But this is not a reasonable world. And we have to, if we are being fully serious and looking at these issues in the full knowledge of what has happened in the past, question the motives and motivations of governments that will lie to us time and time and time again. Of course, such questioning was conducted by Michael Chosadovsky of globalresearch.ca in an October 2005 article called Martial Law and the Avian Flu Pandemic. Quote, "The threat of the avian flu pandemic is real. Until recently, national governments and the WHO have dismissed the seriousness of the crisis. The public has been misinformed. The issue has been barely mentioned by the media. Why all of a sudden is avian flu on the presidential agenda? The issue was placed on the agenda of the president's White House press conference. There was nothing spontaneous in the White House journalists' question to President Bush, which explicitly pointed to a role for the country's defense assets in the case of a pandemic. We are not dealing with an off-the-cuff statement. Both the question, as well as Bush's response calling for a greater role for the military, had been prepared in advance. The statement of President Bush suggests the enactment of martial law in the case of an avian flu outbreak. Martial law could also be established using the pretext of an outbreak of avian flu in foreign countries and its potential impacts on the U.S.
Which is
In
happening
other words,
now.
the military, rather than the country's civilian health authorities, would be put in charge." End quote. Now, this story, of course, leads in a pretty obvious line of historical continuity to the September 2007 article from prisonplanet.com under the headline, "Bush Greases Skids for UN Pandemic Power Grab." Best-selling author wouldn't put it past globalists to release virus to capitalize on control. Quote, "The World Health Organization and the UN have been handed complete control over response procedures in the event of a pandemic outbreak in the US after an agreement was signed by President Bush at the recent SPP meeting that bypasses congressional approval. We've now got a North American plan for avian and pandemic influenza, and what this plan does is it puts US, Canada, and Mexico under the World Health Organization and under the United Nations law and control should there be any health emergency," best-selling author Jerome Corsi told the Alex Jones Show on Friday. Corsi said it was blue helmet time should such an emergency arise, and that the origins of the agreement could be traced back to 2005, when President Bush announced a new international partnership on avian and pandemic influenza to a high-level plenary meeting of the UN General Assembly in New York. At the recent SPP meeting in Montebello, Canada, an agreement was signed that establishes UN law, along with regulations by the World Trade Organization and World Health Organization, as supreme over US law during a pandemic, and sets the stage for militarizing the management of continental health emergencies, writes Corsi. End quote. Now, there's no doubt that a pandemic, whether real or imagined, whether naturally occurring or manufactured in a vaccine laboratory, whether accidentally released or released on purpose, no matter how such a pandemic or even the perception of a pandemic were to play out, it would play into the hands of the globalists seeking to centralize control and seeking to erase borders for their global governmental institutions. Of course, the World Health Organization is going to play a very important role in any international pandemic, as one would reasonably expect if this were, again, a reasonable world. But of course, in an age where the World Health Organization, the UN, the World Trade Organization, and others are seeking to bring global health regulations in line in such a way as to outlaw public health freedoms and to institute such things as Codex Alimentarius, one could definitely not say that this is a reasonable situation. And as we have seen the preparation and build-up for martial law in the entire Western world over a period of decades, we know that such a situation could not end happily for the average citizen. Just as the creation of a global governmental financial control body will only play into the hands of those seeking to create global government, so a global health emergency can only play into the hands of those seeking to create global governmental controls. And to think that there are not going to be some very significant tests of this type of governmental intervention, military and otherwise, in the lives of average citizens as the result of future pandemics and outbreaks, one need only look at the ways in which this current swine flu panic, again, only resulting in a handful of deaths, there have already been substantial moves made to implement medical martial law, not just the passing of that act in Massachusetts. For one indication of that, we can turn to computerworld.com, April 30th, 2000.
And you think about how bad they're freaking out over right now. None of this happened. Now look what's happening right now.
2009. If flu threat rises, CDC wants pandemic coordinator in workplace. Another indication, for those who might think that this is solely an American issue, comes from an Australian article from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation at abc.net.au from April 28th, 2009, mandatory detention laws for flu sufferers. And of course, we also have the North Bay Nugget reporting from a Canadian perspective that talks about how the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit is setting up flu centers, which will in fact be mass vaccination centers in the event that emergency rooms become overwhelmed by pandemic flu cases. Again, of course, all of these stories and many, many, many more that we don't have time to get into today, but which I leave you to research for yourself, are just data points in a trail that start to form a picture that shows us a very bleak future if and when the governments of the Western world decide to pull the trigger on the pandemic martial law scenario. Again, of course, part of the martial law process, which we've outlined in previous episodes of this podcast, is to indoctrinate and gradually acclimate people to the implementation of martial law. So it's to be expected that the first implementation, or the first 2 or 3 implementations, will be small scale and generally seen to be mostly effective.
What's happening right now?
Hand-wringing in the media by people pretending to be on our side, who will say that perhaps it's going too far to force people into vaccination scenarios or to quarantine them against their will. But eventually, of course, the whole media process will serve only to further cement in the minds of the general public that such steps are necessary. And eventually, by the time the public is acclimated to the idea, then all it would take is the release of a biowarfare agent, whether from a real bioterrorist group or, as is more often the case, by the government. It will be used to effect the full-scale implementation of what they are only beginning to test out at the moment. And of course, just like a martial law scenario that would play out in the event of a terrorist attack, a martial law scenario in the wake of a pandemic attack could only be pulled off if a sufficient percentage of the public were unaware of the ultimate game plan. And of course, that game plan is exactly what was talked about in today's first Real News story from Jim Tucker reporting from this year's Bilderberg, and revealing that, yes, indeed, top of the agenda is how to exploit the swine flu hysteria to further strengthen the World Health Organization and implement World Health regulations. So once again, the swine flu hysteria, which has been fed and fed upon by the controlled corporate media and has sufficiently served to raise public hysteria, is of course another stepping stone on the way to global government, just like so many other issues have been exploited in exactly this way. So what then can we actually do about this? Well, of course, forewarned is forearmed, knowledge is power, and we have to inform others about what is really going on. And an absolute cornerstone of this research is the understanding that the vaccines that they're going to try to use in the event of the next pandemic are more likely than not going to hurt people than save them. And we have to expose that by exposing some of the very troubling information about vaccines presented in today's episode. The fact that Baxter shipped out live bird flu to be mixed in with regular flu for the flu shots should be something that we should be screaming from the rooftops to anyone who will listen. That is one of the key stories that shows that even if this was a complete accident, in which case it would just be gross criminal negligence, the fact that it hasn't been touted, it hasn't been cited, it hasn't been written about or talked about in the controlled corporate media is itself a sign that there is a very troubling disconnect between the real world and the world that we are being fed through the TV news and the newspapers. The fact.
Okay, so that's all we got.
We live in the movie they live, man.
I know.
It's so insane. The media. I mean, and I think this is all true. I mean, it seems like it is. The evidence is all there.
No, and here's the thing on this is that this was back in 2009 that he had this. This guy's been on this stuff for a long time. And everything he was talking about, worst case scenario, could happen. We are already now seeing happening right now. And I was reading somewhere that they're already. I was reading in the below. This will blow your mind. I can't remember if in the Stafford emergency declaration or under national emergency, just the regular emergency declaration. They can suspend testing. The regulations and provisions set in place for testing of vaccines and testing of medications, they can suspend those protocols or provisions in a state of emergency to roll vaccines or medications out quicker, which means they will actually be testing as they go.
Right.
Everything he's saying is spot on, and it's the truth. Is that they literally could use us as guinea pigs, if you will, for their plan.
You know, that's something interesting about that, and it may be completely unrelated, but it just popped in my head. But you know, I'm a big gamer. I love playing video games, and the industry, a lot of the big developers are all really suffering right now. And it's really because they're putting out a bunch of crap, and the crap that they put out, they'll put it out way early, and it's basically they're selling a product that still needs to be tested, and it gets tested by the buyer basically, and so the buyer's getting screwed over. And that's just interesting you say that because it reminds me of that. But I wouldn't be at all surprised by that. And what he was talking about there about the bird flu being in the vaccines, I've never heard about that. I'm not really up on any of that.
Yeah,
that's crazy. And the fact that the media doesn't talk about it, that's interesting to me, because what I do every day, that's something that's always in my mind, is the things that the media ignores and doesn't want to talk about.
Yeah.
And they do that with regularity. One of the biggest things the media does is they don't necessarily outright lie all the time, but they omit a lot of inconvenient information to the agenda that they're pushing.
Yeah. No, and with that, like that they can straight up. Going back to the Event 201, what does it say? Where they're going to do? They're going to shut down any misinformation or counter, and literally they're going to push the propaganda to this is the story, and everyone has to stay to it, and we shut down whoever doesn't talk, that doesn't fall in suit. The exact same thing that they were doing in China that everybody over here complained about under emergency declarations and under this Event 201. That is the agenda or the bullet points they're putting out for American people to say, no, you can't. We have to shut down misinformation and get the real story. Fake information dies. You can, in the age we live in, it dies soon enough. But real information that goes counterproductive to what they want you to think or say or believe, that is also easily easily inseminated and distributed, and that's what they're talking about wanting to shut down. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so, I don't know what we're going to do about it. I mean, pretty much what we're doing, I think, is the best thing. Right. I really, the left loves the protest. They go out there and protest. But do you really think that really changes a lot of minds? I don't. I think what we're doing right here does. And I think we're actually on the cutting edge, honestly. I mean, we're out there talking to people, bringing people into communities to talk about these things and spread the information, disseminate the information. I mean, I think that's all you can really do outside of, protest and then increasing resistance to that, whatever that leads. Where is this all going? I mean, what's going to happen?
So finishing out some of my thoughts on that was that was a long video to help you guys understand what medical martial law entails, right? But they're already starting to roll that out. Everything's already been set in place to now. That is just one command, one authorization away to where they can do that, right? So then you take to that increased surveillance, right? That this is why they're wanting to do this. It increases the surveillance. It increases the financial control. We're going back to presupposing why the deep state, the cabal in America would do this. It increases surveillance, increases financial control, and it increases the vaccine control and mandating of that, like we just talked about. It benefits big pharma. They have a cover story for crashing the overinflated markets. Now that's another reason why they want to do it, right? How are they going to pop that bubble gracefully? There was no way to do it. We needed a world war or some major crazy emergency. They have that now. It opens the door for the global ID and vaccinations, which Bill Gates is pushing. And Bill Gates just stepped down today or yesterday from the board of Microsoft, right?
Yeah, I meant to say something about that earlier, but yeah.
That's awful weird, along with all the other CEOs that have been stepping down in mass.
Strange timing. Yeah.
Very strange timing. But it opens the door for the global ID, which he's now pushing. It gets the globalist agenda back on track. It removes Trump from office. So this is where I'm going back to how the DNC never let a good tragedy go to waste.
Yes.
They're absolutely using this, right? Because it can remove Trump from office. He's not doing a good enough job. It crashes the economy. It gives us the new world. It gives us a new world war, essentially, right? To fight for the military,
which they've used that exact analogy, which I think you just said, but
exactly, which ushers in a truly one world government and consensus to end. Basically, the only way to stop that world war, all this is we all come together as one people under one world government. Whatever, it ushers all of the globalist ideologies, all the globalist power back into place that got derailed in 2016, and it shuts all of that other stuff down. It gives us new controls, even crazier controls than the Patriot Act did. It's going to be even there's never been a time in history that everything has shut down and the economy, the whole economy that removes the world is coming to a grinding halt as we speak. So that is my presupposition that the U.S. did it. Either way, whether China did it or the U.S. did, somebody did it, and we are being sold a bill of lies and goods. And if I wasn't on the list before, I am now.
I will say something just to add evidence to what you're saying, and some credibility to your theory here. They are definitely, I mean, we already know they've been trying to get rid of Trump. It's so obvious they've been trying to do this whole time, but especially now with the virus spreading, they're definitely trying to several different angles to get Trump out. And I think that PBS reporter really landed on there about him testing. That's part of it, because if he has it, like you said, or the cabinet, they can be like, oh, well, you can't you can't lead this. And Nancy Pelosi actually, she's been out there talking, and she never talks about Trump. She talks about like other people leading it and other people doing things. And it's pretty clear that that's sort of the direction that they're going now. And I my video for tomorrow is going to go into a lot of that stuff. But what you see a lot of, another thing I'm seeing is this push for socialism again. There's been a big push for socialism because of all of this. Yeah. On The View, Sonny Hostin was on there, saying, oh, well, this just shows that the virtues of socialism, and that, Republicans are against socialism until they're sick and then they love it, which she provides no evidence for that, of course. But
no, I hate it, especially when I'm sick. I hate it more when I'm sick.
Right. And like I pointed out, like this all started in a socialist state with nationalized health care. This all came from there. And it may have even been worsened by them because they weren't honest. Not to say that because we're capitalists that our governments are honest. That's not true, obviously. But I just, that's another like crazy thing that's coming out of this. Everybody's just trying to use it to their benefit.
No, I know. It's and you think about it, they were complaining that the government didn't have, and it's because it's Trump's government. They would have had a different, if it was a Democrat, and there'd be a different story in the mainstream. But they complained that the government didn't respond quick enough, that the administration didn't respond quick enough, that there was a whole bunch of failures. But you want your same health care, right? Being administered by a government that can't respond fast enough. You want your health care in their hands. That makes no sense.
Yeah, because the government's known for their steadfastness and their ability to produce good service and a quality product. Right. And something else about that. I forgot what I was going to say
about the government control of the healthcare.
Oh yeah. De Blasio, De Blasio's out there suggesting that we nationalize industry also. Yeah. I meant to mention that earlier. And actually, let me play that here real quick. I don't know if I'll be able to.
I can't hear it.
No sound? Yeah, no sound, of course.
What we're seeing here is the coronavirus is really bad. And I just think that if we put government in control of all the industries, that would make a lot more sense. I mean, number one, we would be able to, regulate them, right? And, just give them whatever they need. And then we would have a lot of money. And then number two, it makes sense,
And then we get rid of the dirty white people.
Yeah. Except for me, because I'm privileged.
Yes. I'm not sure why that's not working. Whatever. I'll figure that out later. But yeah, that, and I had another point to make there, but I'm starting to lose my train of thought here more and more. But
here, the panic now. I'm going to go. I probably in like 20 minutes. I know we were going to try to take some calls. The seriousness of the virus. It could be greatly exaggerated and is being used for control. But again, I've been sick 3 times in 1.5 months. Or this could be something far more nefarious, right? It really could be that bad. It could have put these HIV markers in there, like the Zero Hedge article talks about. Where was that one at? Right here. This article here that talks about how the Zero Hedge talks about how coronavirus contains HIV insertion, stoking fears of artificially created bioweapon. This came out back in February 1st, right? Maybe it does. Maybe it does attach to your immune system and to your central nervous system, and it weakens you over time, right? Regardless, the panic is real. Whatever, either way, whether it's fake or not, what you have to be worried about now is the panic that is real. And hospitals are saying, there's another article here that says hospitals could be, no state is prepared, mapping where hospitals be run out of beds first as virus spikes. Think about that, how when there's no hospital beds, right? Or, how the economy, I'm scared to say, but pretty confident to say is going to collapse. When that happens, you have riots in the street, which then ushers in hardcore martial law to take care of that. You have the optimal time, like this article right here. COVID impacting U.S. defense readiness as Pentagon announces minimal staffing. This came out today. It says COVID-19 impacting U.S. defense readiness as Pentagon announces minimal staffing. So, like I said earlier, this lines us up perfect for now a foreign attack on us, because we are in disarray. We're weakened, and I'm not saying that he can't. Trump isn't going to pull it all back together, but and be able to control it. But man, we are right on the brink of these bad things happening. And it is, President Trump tests negative for the coronavirus. That was something that came out. We just talked about, but also like the New York being quarantined, like I talked about earlier. This kind of stuff is snowballing and it's avalanching and it's gaining a lot of speed and it's going quick. So I don't know, just my thoughts on this. Some of the thoughts I threw together for the stream.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think we're going to try to wrap this up. We've been going for like an hour, almost 2 hours now.
Yeah.
And I'm just starting to get tired myself. Honestly, I haven't been feeling good. I know neither of us have been. Guys, thanks so much for coming. I do really quick on my D Live here. I want to do the chest, and I want to like live stream it here. I'm not really sure. Hold on, let me see if I can do this real quick. Left monitor. There we go. Okay, gonna do this chest, guys. If you're not on D Live, go over to D Live. I'm not really sure what I'm doing here. Distribute rewards. Somehow it distributes rewards. I'm not really sure. I forgot to do this last time. I just wanted to make sure I did it this time.
I know. I got yelled at my guy too.
Yeah,
for doing it.
I really apologize, guys. But if you haven't checked out D Live, wherever you're watching me from, wherever you're watching us from, go over and check it out. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool little stream site. There are a lot more lax. You don't have to worry so much like YouTube.
Yeah.
So yeah, go over and check it out. There's great people. Yeah,
it's going to be our future home, man. I think for us.
Yeah, there's this cool system where you get these I don't know what they are. They're like play money, but they equal real money.
It's like basically like a crypto kind of a crypto design currency, I think, basically, but for their platform, which is which basically does make it so that they can, convert it into real money. So
and it's fun.
Yeah, it's totally fun. So
it's interesting. It's cool. It's different.
You got $28 in your account.
Do I?
Yeah, look.
Is that what that is?
11. Yeah, it's 2,851. Yeah, that's every 1,000 is $10. So you got $28.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Neat. And that's I've gotten all that from you guys that have been watching us and just donating, and probably because I hoarded a bunch of money the last time by accident. I did not mean to do that.
Bastard.
I know, I'm such a greedy bastard.
Well, hey,
but
I appreciate you letting me on, and guys, for everyone out there that I was ranting, and going off. This is fluid. We're all trying to figure out what's going on.
Yes.
There's a lot of it's constantly in the news. I'm just saying could be a lot that's coming down this pike, and you guys need to be aware of it and really not just blowing it off like, oh, it'll just pass. Yeah, the flu, the virus itself, I don't necessarily think it's that dangerous. It could be. I'm not saying it isn't, but the panic and the situations that are entailing because of it or unfolding because of it, that's the real deal. So
yeah,
be prepared.
And real quick before we go, I just wanted to thank again Kenneth Nicely for your and Tony O Face Pro Civil Warrior. Thanks both of you guys for your donations. I really appreciate it. It helps this channel to continue going, and I recommend you all go subscribe to SJG Perspective. You can find his link to his channel here in the description. I'll go ahead and post it in the chat. So go over there and subscribe to him, and check us out here every Saturday. We, like he said, we're still. I've never streamed until I met up with these guys and some other guys, so I'm not very good at this yet. We're learning as we go, but I think give us some time, stick with us, we'll get better. And it'll be entertaining and more worthwhile. But we thank all of you guys for supporting us. Again, come back next Saturday, 8 o'clock Eastern. And check SJG out. He does streams all week long. So thanks again for coming, everybody. We'll see you guys next week.
Later, guys.
Later.
All right. So
hold on. I'm actually not gone yet. I'm going to see if I can do this. Wait. No, I can't. Okay. It's done.